The new French Prime Minister has announced a whole new series of spending cuts.
Yes, he has indeed. The French government is trying to get a handle of its budget deficit, and the French Prime Minister, as you say, Laura, has announced a plan to cut 21 billion euros from pensions, social care and health care as well. It's part of an effort to cut the deficit by 50 billion euros by 2017. Carl Brown has more details.
France's new Prime Minister Manuel Valls lost little time, announcing a host of reforms moments after emerging from a crucial cabinet meeting. The aim, to show that major reforms are now on track.
We have to restore the fabric of our economy and regain the ability to better compete, develop the country's economic activity and hire workers again. That's not to say that we will call into question our social model, our social rules or the minimum wage.
Valls reiterated the socialist government's pledge to cut public spending by 50 billion euros between 2015 and 2017. To make savings, the government will cut staffing outside of education and justice and security and freeze some social benefits until October 2015. The lowest pensions and welfare payments will escape the measure. A civil servant pay freeze already in place will remain until next year. The cuts are aimed at allowing France to bring in its budget deficit to within 3% of its GDP, to comply with its obligations to the European Union. Although the Prime Minister made a fresh pledge to honor France's commitment, there are warnings that more measures are necessary.
OK, we're heading across the English Channel next. For the first time in 5 years, unemployment in the UK has dropped below 7%. Official figures show that there were 2.25 million job seekers between January and March in the UK. That's 6.9% of the labour force. The British government says it's a sign that the recovery has taken hold. Economists say that the improved jobless picture could give the Bank of England space to raise interest rates from current record lows. Global stock markets have been getting a boost after China's latest growth figures. The world's second biggest economy grew by 7.4% between January and March. That's in comparison to the same time last year. The Chinese government is aiming for a 7.5% growth rate for the year as a whole, and the figure from the first quarter is below that rate. It's also the weakest reading since 2012, following a gradual slowdown in recent quarters. Still, though, economists had been expecting a slightly weaker reading, and a 7.4% growth rate is seen as a sign that the economy is holding up nonetheless.
The actual GDP are below the target, okay, because the differences is not that big. Okay, there's still a buffer for the China government to reach their objectives, and then therefore there will be no harm in the first quarter.
OK, let's take a look then at how that helped global stock markets on Wednesday. In Europe, we saw those China figures boosting indices across the board, basically, with the CAC 40 in Paris up 1.4%, the DAX in Frankfurt up 1.6%. Investors, they're watching events in Ukraine, but those events were seen to be put to one side during Wednesday's session. In the United States, we're also seeing gains this hour. China is helping American shares, and so are comments from Fed Chair Janet Yellen. She's reaffirmed that the Fed is committed to low interest rates to support the U.S. economy. As you can see right here, the Nasdaq is currently up 0.75%. Let's talk you through a few other corporate stories that we're watching for you. Legal costs pushed Bank of America into a $276 million loss in the first quarter. The banking giant was dragged down by legal expenses to the tune of $6 billion. That includes a payment to the U.S. government to settle allegations the bank missold mortgage-backed securities before the financial crisis. Shares in Bank of America, they're trading down this session over on Wall Street. Shares in British retailer Tesco, though, got a boost in London earlier, ending 2.5% higher. It came as the retailer pledged to cut prices to win back shoppers and turn around its fortunes. Tesco's chief executive says he wants to take on discount retailers like Aldi and Lidl. The turnaround plan was unveiled as Tesco reported a 6% drop in annual profits, partly due to slower trading in Europe. And the Bitcoin exchange Mt. Gox appears to be heading for liquidation. A court in Japan has rejected the company's plan to resuscitate its business. Mt. Gox filed for bankruptcy back in February. At the same time, it said 850,000 Bitcoins worth around $500 million may have been stolen from its servers. Mt. Gox later found some of the missing Bitcoins, but most of them are still missing. Okay, that is the business news for now. I'll be back again in an hour. For now, though, back to you, Laura.
Thank you, Marcus. We look forward to that. Let's get you some sports now, though. Dan Levy's here with us in the studio. Hi there, Dan.
Hi, Laura.
We're going to start in Spain because it's a big match